Minister of Education, Dr. Justin Valentin, Chairperson of UNISEY Council, Professor Dennis Hardy, Dr. Marina Confé, Vice Chancellor, UNISEY Executive Member, UNISEY students, media, Toolbox representative, a very good morning. Viewers watching us live from the auditorium and via our YouTube and social media channels, once again, a very good morning to you all, and welcome to the University of Seychelles. As we celebrate 13 years tomorrow, on the 17th of September, UNISEY is commemorating this occasion today through 4 events. Firstly, there will be the unveiling of the wall here of UNISEY's past and current chancellors and vice chancellors. This will be followed by the anniversary lecture in the auditorium. The VC and the team will then have a press conference whereby the university will launch its endowment campaign. And then we will end today with a UNISEY alumni discussion to relaunch the UNISEY Alumni Association and actively engage our alumni. I would now like to invite the Vice Chancellor to say a few words.
Thank you, Leila. Good morning, everybody, and all protocol observed. We are very honored today because I think it's a very important occasion for the university and I think also for Seychelles, because we decided to do this unveiling of the wall, not the Game of Thrones wall, but the wall university, because we would like to recognize and remember everybody who has contributed in a way or another towards the progress and the development of the university. You know, sometimes when we remember what has happened, we understand better where we are today and where we would like to go for the future. So sometimes we think we are the first ones who have started something. But here at UNISEY, we never forget who started this walk that we are continuing today. So this is why we have decided to commemorate our 13th anniversary. We would like to recognize, first of all, the chancellors, our first chancellor, President James Michel, and our current chancellor, President Weverom Kalawan, and also all the vice chancellors who have worked here and who have led the University of Seychelles until today. Anyway, I'm continuing, doing the best that I can. What I would like to say is that even if I'm now the vice chancellor, I always call upon all my predecessors, and all of them are present. And this is why I think we should not forget people who have contributed. This year, we're starting with the chancellors and vice chancellors, but next year, hopefully, we will do the pro-vice chancellors and also the deans, everybody who served to take UNISEY where we are today. So it really gives me great honor for us to unveil this, because here where we are at the reception, which we call compas, my predecessor used a very good word for this, everybody comes here to then be redirected to all the other sections of the university. So when you come here, you see our history, and you feel that you're coming into an institution that has a strong base, a strong foundation. So with this, I would like to say thank you to everybody, from our Chancellor, President James Michel, Professor Rolf Payette, who are both following us live today, and everybody else who are here, Dr. Confé, Professor Hardy, and now our minister, my predecessor, and who have contributed and who are still contributing towards the progress and development of UNISEY. So we're very proud to have this wall and to have you. It's a remembrance also of what you are still doing for the country. So thank you very much.
So I now have the pleasure to ask Professor Hardy to come forward with the VC to unveil the wall of Chancellor and Vice Chancellor. You can just put it down. All right. Yes. Put it down. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our past Chancellor, current one, and all our Vice Chancellor. So, VC would like to say a few words before we proceed to the auditorium for the anniversary lecture.
Yes, I just wanted to add that you will see our students who are here. They are our current students. They are president, vice president, and representatives on our student union. And they proudly hold all the maces for all our previous vice chancellors, because the mace represents the tenure, represents the work and the vision of the vice chancellors. Everybody's smiling because they see the mace that they had to work with in a way. So this one was the first one. And Dr. Confé, you remember this one, very heavy one. This is why we have our president holding it. Then we have our vice president holding the second mace that we had, Professor Hardy, remember? And then we have the minister's mace, and also, well, mine is bigger, normal. But everything tells a story and also gives us a direction. So it's a continuity of what we are trying to do here. So thank you very much, students. We're happy you are here to participate with us. Thank you.
So just before we proceed, may we have a picture with the Minister, Chairperson, Dr. Confé, Vice Chancellor, if you can join the students as well. And then you have one just here. Can move on one side, and we have a picture of all the Vice Chancellor and
the compliments.
Oh, yeah. But maybe we should send the other way. No, that's the way we're right.
yeah, it's so it's like Dr. Confé here, yeah, Professor next to Dr. Confé, so just move away. So we shall now proceed to the auditorium for the lecture.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please be seated. Minister, Speaker of the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Principal Secretaries, Chief Executive Officers, Chairperson of the UNISEY Council, UNISEY Council members, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Seychelles, UNISEY executive members, UNISEY staff, associate lecturers, students, alumni, viewers following us virtually, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all, and we are honored with your presence for the University of Seychelles' 13th anniversary. My name is Nathalie Espawon, and I will be your MC this morning. In 2016, UNISEY started an annual event called the UNISEY Anniversary Lecture to commemorate the opening of the university, and this year we are hosting the 17th edition of the Anniversary Lecture. The lecture seeks to promote local scholars who are actively engaged in scholarly activities, in particular research or other prominent work that have national or regional impact. The lecture will also be live streamed via UNISEY's YouTube channel and other social media platforms for those who could not physically attend this morning, and also viewers following us worldwide. I now have the pleasure to invite the convener, Ms. Joëlle Perrault, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Seychelles, to present the speaker.
Good morning, everybody. Our invited guests, all protocol observed. We are very grateful to you all today to have come here at Montreal for our 7th edition of the anniversary lecture. And we are more grateful because today we had the unveiling of the wall, as you saw, and we are pleased to have our former vice-chancellors with us here or following us online. We are very pleased as well to have Mr. Speaker with us and all our diplomatic corps, because I know you are all very busy, but you have made a special effort to join us this morning. Mr. Pragassen, I think most of us here in Seychelles, we know him. He has worked in the education system for a long, long time and is still working. But he attended Plaisance Primary School and followed by Seychelles College and later A-levels at the North Devon Technical College in Barnstaple in England. Mr. Pragassen has a BSc in Maths, Honours, and he graduated at the University of Manchester Institute of Science and Technology in 1970. He has qualified teacher status, and he got this from the Chelsea Centre for Science Education in 1971. He also earned a postgraduate diploma in education management and administration at Moray House College of Education in Edinburgh, Scotland, in 1975. For his work experience, Mr. Pragassen has worked as a maths teacher at the Seychelles College from 1971 to 1974. He was then the headmaster of the Seychelles College from 1975 to 1979. He transferred afterwards to the Ministry of Education as a maths advisor following the announcement by the 1977 government of the closing of the college. In 1982, he was charged with the setting up and managing of the National Institute of Pedagogy, responsible for curriculum reform, in particular, the change in the medium of instruction from English to Creole. He remained in the Ministry of Education, occupying various posts: Director Planning, Director General to Principal Secretary, Education and Culture, until 1988, when he was moved to the Seychelles Industrial Development as its Executive Chairman. He left SIDEC in 1993 to become director of the Independent School after its setting up following a change in the law in the 1992 Act that allowed Seychellois nationals to attend private education institutions in Seychelles. He continued as director of the school until retirement at the end of 2008. He was asked back in 2018 to take over from the then school director, who did not intend to renew her contract. He helped find and assist a new head, and having done that, he handed over the school to the new principal in May 2021. He also served as a member on the University Council from 2011 to 2015. So we're very honored today to have Mr. Pragassen as our speaker. And I would like, therefore, to call upon Mr. Pragassen to, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Perrault, for the introduction, and for inviting me here today to give the lecture. I hope I live up to your expectation. Sorry, I apologize if I let you down. Vice Chancellors, Minister Valentin, council members, my friend the speaker, Roger, good morning, and same for distinguished guests here today. When the Vice Chancellor phoned me and asked me whether I would do a lecture on education, although I said yes, I had a sleepless night after that, wondering, what am I going to talk about? It is so vast. I don't think even an hour lecture on the subject will do it justice. So I decided I would focus on what I believe to be more pressing today in education. So that's why I chose the theme, improving the quality of education. As a matter of fact, sure I'm getting this right? Okay. As a matter of fact, that is why the goal of education has been changed from just access to education, in fact. And as you see in, if I get the hang of using that, in goal number 4 there, it is quality education, not just education. And in fact, it goes just before gender equality, which is also an issue these days in education, perhaps in Seychelles. Before that, it's all to do about living, hunger, and well-being. And it has changed from being just millennium, whatever, goals. It has changed to being sustainable goals. And that is why, towards the end, you find the effect of climate, or life in water, life in, on land, and issues of climate and so on comes in. And that is, hopefully, people want that to be accomplished by 2030. But there you are. There it is, that goal, by 2030. And it describes what it means by quality education using the word inclusive, equitable, and lifelong learning opportunities for all. But I will look at more quality education. And of course, there's the issue of inclusivity within it. And as I said, it has shifted from being simply universal primary education, which was in the Millennium Goal of 2021, to quality education. And that's what everybody's talking about now. And that as well is reflected. In fact, the World Bank is one of the organizations connected with United Nations, because these goals before are through various discussions within the United Nations. But before that, there was a study done by finance here in Seychelles entitled Expenditure Policies, and they recognized that within that there were two elements that were very important, that is health and education. That is why in their study they dedicated 2 chapters actually. One to health, which was chapter 2, and one to education. And their findings on education, which I can read from here, are based not on just what they hear people talking about, but are based first of all on reliable evidence, data. So they took, and apparently here in Seychelles in education we have a vast amount of data that we can use. And hereby, I think Seychelles seemed to attract a lot of help and support from organizations in other countries. Because the first one I'm going to mention here in my findings is about SACMEC. It's to do with, and there's SACMEC here. I don't know whether we can see the other bit. Okay, You can't see that other bit. It's Southern and Eastern African Consortium for Monitoring Education Quality. That's what SACMEC stands for. And this is an organization that is largely funded, I believe, by Norway. And we joined SACMEC, not with the first one, but with the second one, SACMEC 2 and SACMEC 3, which appeared before 2013, and these were the two studies used by the World Bank Group. And they also used S5 IGCSE results. Again, there's years of state schools, as well as private schools, taking the IGCSE, which is an internationally recognized evaluation, at the level of S5. So what they were doing is collecting information at the level of P6 and at the level of S5 to ascertain exactly what is going on in terms of quality education. And their findings found that, and I'll take the second one, that learning achievement lagged behind other middle-income countries, especially in mathematics and science. And that is, for the level of needs in Seychelles, that is very worrying. The other thing is, and that we'll have to do some sort of study on that as to why, but I do know that there are people who have been involved with that, and there I recall one of my educationist friends, Mrs. Badiwala, is work on girls outperforming boys. And in fact, in the tertiary sector, this is, in the post-secondary sector, this is really alarming. And what are we doing to our boys then? That's a big question. Now, there's another thing that they remarked, whether that has been changed since 2014, is that post-secondary education receive an higher share of total spending on education. And that is understandable because just before that, sorry, UNISEY, a large part of the education budget was siphoned into the creation and development of UNISEY to the detriment of primary and secondary. That's my understanding. As a result of which, not realizing that post-secondary education need good products from low down. You see? We weaken the foundation to build an edifice at the top. At the time that this study was done, compulsory education was up to S4. Before, it was universal education after that. If you wanted to attend, you attend. It was free. But in S5, you weren't obliged to attend. If your parents didn't want to send you to school in S5, your father wants to take you fishing and learn how to fish, the law worked against that. So all the S5s had to, because that recommendation was taken up by the then president, and I understand just a year, just before the election, that way it was announced that now you will have compulsory education up to the level of S5. What happened? There weren't enough teachers to do all that, so the teachers kept being moved up. In the end, there was a time when they were being moved up 1 year all the time that when you came to the bottom, they were all unqualified people. I hope this has changed since then, or maybe I've got it wrong. The second one, that is also a budgetary concern. Most of the money is going on just salaries and buildings, because that is more visible. Making sure we have desks and chairs. But because this is not so visible, not enough, maybe the basic textbooks, yes, but other resources to improve learning and teaching were sacrificed in favor of the others, which were more visible. Of course, we do have an issue of teacher quality. And the third one, that recommendation, was early childhood development. That, like the first one, was also taken up. And we'll talk about that a little bit. This is why we had the setting up of the IECD, which I think is something that's very much welcome. Except we have to be careful how we go about it. I'm going back. I'm looking also now at the SACMEC 4, which came after the 2014 World Bank report. I don't think the final report has been published yet. Maybe Dr. Valentine can enlighten me on that. But I know at the moment, work is being done on SACMEC 5. I think what I got was a preliminary report from SACMEC 4. And SACMEC 5 will probably tell us more about going on, more recent things going on in the primary. I'm focusing on primary because I think this is where the problem starts. The children starts very well, kindergarten, P1, P2, that's what I've observed. The moment they get into past P2, then we start having problems. And we see that when we conduct, at any rate, we rarely conduct formal exams at the level of P2, but we do at the level of P6. So the thing manifests itself then. And that's where we see the low achievement, the low standards. And what did that SACMEC 4 say? Again, gender inequality and sharing of education spending. Yeah. Positive effect of early childhood education. And there are some other background information worth mentioning here. At the time they did that study, I think this may have improved now, and they found that although the instruction by then, language of instruction, was changing and shifting away from Creole at a certain level, back to English primarily, they still found that frequency of learners speaking English outside the school, whether that is true or not, they quoted 84% said never. Apparently, I think of the private schools, I think only independent school takes part in that SACMEC survey. And it's very possible that the other, whatever it is, 16% falls among those, and of course some others as well. Talk again about the issue of teacher qualification. Seems to be okay with English and reading, as you can see here, where they're saying that they believe, which is, when they say A-level, that 3 years post-secondary education, about 80% of those doing English and reading have this equivalent. But in maths, it drops down to 60%. So there is 40% of teachers in our schools who do not have 3 years of education past S5 in maths, or maths teaching for that matter. Then there were other things that they remarked, is which I don't think we took too badly. Students in household with 500 or more books in the home, because that's a way of interesting your children to read. We are at par with Mauritius at 38%. By the way, I'm using Mauritius here because Seychelles and Mauritius are considered of similar socio-economic status, but same in terms of, in that respect. That's one. That's good. The next one is going to be controversial here, this one. Workload of P6 teachers, around 25 a week, and mean class size, 25 mean, because there are very small schools as well in, I have to remember, it's not all schools, there are small schools, I think like Grand-Anse and so on, La Misère and so on, where the numbers, so maybe it makes the average go down, because there are schools with about 30, so. But we see much lowest in the region. If you would see a graph of that, you would be amazed how low we are, even by standards outside of the region. If you compare these things with even European and countries almost anywhere in the world, we seem to be very generous with our teachers. So, could there be a solution there? Maybe ask the teachers whether they want to take a little bit more on and pay them more. I remember when I was teaching, which was secondary and A-level, I had to do 32 periods lessons a week. And I think in England they're still doing about 35 and 30, whatever it is. So there's food for thought. Minister? The other thing is, which may or may not account for why girls outperform boys, is the absence of male teachers in the schools, both at primary and secondary. Especially, I feel, here in Seychelles, where most of the homes don't have a male presence. There's no role models. That's my view. I don't see any studies with that. And same thing for head teachers. Well, we do have quite a few head teachers at the secondary level, So what's next? You tell me. I remember reading some years back, of a lecture given by the Dalai Lama. It was a peace lecture not so long ago. The Dalai Lama is considered one of the wisest men on earth because he gets his wisdom from the one who came before him. And the one before him got from the one before him. And it went on that way. So I think it's been around, the Dalai Lama has been around for about 2,000 years. So he's supposed to have the wisdom, 2,000-year wisdoms of all the previous Dalai Lamas. And he was asked a question. So everybody was expecting to give an answer. He looked at the audience, pondered for a while, and they all went quiet. And then he says, I don't know. I've never thought about it. And then he paused again, quiet. Everybody was saying, but he should know, he's the wisest man on earth. And then he got back at them. You tell me now. You tell me what the answer to that question you asked now. So there you are. You have whoever is going to be looking into how to improve education has quite a bit on his or her plate. But obviously, this is a collective. This has to be a collective effort. And I'll come to that later on. So for now, I'll move on to early childhood development, which has been mentioned in the previous reports. And as you can see, it's a semi-autonomous body established in 2014, you see, just at the time of the first World Bank, just after, under an act. And the bill recently, in fact, it's been in a lifeline. You know that I think last week or the week before, there was a bill before the Assembly, which tended to, because from 2014, there was a lot of work going on how to organize that. And that culminated in this bill, which was presented to the Assembly. And these was apart from the function, provide strategic direction and leadership for early childhood care and education. I suppose the reason why I started being autonomous because there were two aspects, especially in the age 0 to 3. There's more the aspect of care, because at that age anyway, when it comes to education, I think children learn more or less by themselves. I haven't heard of any parent who, when the child starts growing up, tells the child, today I'm going to teach you how to walk. Have any one of you do that? Today my child, the child has learned how to speak and can listen from the very young. In fact, listen from the time they are in the mother's womb. Doctor there can contradict me. And let's see that. Has any parent tried that? No. The child learns to walk by himself or herself. True or false? And there are lots of other things. They learn to talk. Of course, if when they talk, the parents talk back to them like children, then they're going to stay children because they think that's a role model. And that's something, maybe thinking, oh, I'm going to say the same words that the child now knows, hoping you are helping. You're not helping the child. You're not helping the child develop naturally. Sometimes you say to the child, hey, don't go there. Or, come on, sit down. There's a lot of that. And that, I believe, what sometimes hampers the child's natural development. See? And that is why, word of caution here, when it comes to education, we don't want, I certainly wouldn't want if that most of them untrained people involved with childcare to start learning how to count, how to add. That can be counterproductive in my view. Let them develop naturally, simply find a way to discover their talents. And, well, I want to take my hat off to the people working in IECD. It's not a very easy area to work in. And in fact, what I've read is up to now only about, they can control maybe about 40%. I don't think not more than that. And that is why they've been given a little more, if you want, support and power to deal with that area. Like promote, the fourth one, promote, regulate, coordinate EC activities, research they were doing, but that they will continue to do it. And the good thing is, again, we are very fortunate in Seychelles to have a lot of support. And UNESCO is really giving a lot of support in that area. And with that, we will obtain international status and recognized as an ECCE world leader. And that came out when the bill was being discussed. Of course, there are challenges like everything else. Not everywhere, not every district. And different childcare centers perform differently. And, well, rightly so, I suppose, but because quite often these centers are seen as, again, the working single mothers as maybe have a very busy day to put their kids there, collect them at night. In fact, some of them try to collect as late as possible. And then are busy at home with the home chores. Maybe doesn't have time really to get involved with their children. That's something we need to look at. And of course, as I mentioned before, maybe those people in charge should have training. So again, I would congratulate the IECD team for what they're doing. I think now they're going to be incorporating more within education, but still autonomous, I believe. As I said, the other thing that was looked at by the World Bank in assessing our performance was this one. And they say their category IGCSE results of past years are below expectations. From the data I have read, and from data I have read from the Ministry of Education itself, supplied by, on average, less than 50% of state school S5 leavers register for IGCSE. But they do a range of between 1 and 8 subjects. And apparently, out of this 50%, these numbers, only 18% will sit for 5 to 8 subjects. Usually, if one wants to continue in education after S5, the minimum is considered to be 5 IGCSEs. And we have the details. I just single out 2 subjects, which are I believe are more important at this stage. You know, I didn't get figures for everything, but I got a detailed statistics for 2018, something called EMIS. And there it showed that there were, at that time S5 was compulsory, there were 1,132 S5 students in 2018. Out of that, 597, or around 53%, were registered for IGCSE. And for maths, less than half of that was registered, 21.8, that's 22%. And the results? For English, 181, you do your maths, 16% of the leavers got grade C or better. For English, about 11%, 120 gained C or better. That is truly alarming, actually. And that is not perceptions or whatever. These are figures. These are the results. Unless, of course, we claim that Cambridge is making mistakes. And we hear year after year after year, since Cambridge Awards came up, that very few of the state school students gain awards there. We're not talking about the lowest and the middle. Even among the high flyers, there is a problem. It just cannot be true that 11% of students in private schools are doing so much better than 90% or whatever it is, 89, 90% who are state schools, from state schools. This is where sometimes I get a bit angry and get sleepless nights when I hear the results. Not because I've been in charge of a private school for so long, where, of course, I get proud, we celebrate, but I've been an educationist, not just for the private school, but then I was forced into that. I had no other option because I love education. And the then government wouldn't have me in education. So There we are. So I will say a little bit about the experience we've had at, hope I'm not overtaking my time, Vice Chancellor. Our school improvement experience from 2018. The reason why we started looking at that, because there were, before 2018, there were signs, were not definite, we had to go and prove after that at S5, the results were coming down. From the very first year of setting up independent school, we established a target of 85% of our students leaving, because all our students take the IGS, you know, there's nobody left out. Of 80 of all the, and we have now about 75, not a large number, but still, that 85% of them should get at least 5 grades A star to C. We maintain that. Our very first group, actually, where we sat down, they didn't start with us from the beginning. We took them from various state schools at the very first few groups. They're the ones who set, have set that target. The very first one was 83%. And that was with our teachers not having experience of IGCSE because they were teaching O-levels before that. And and the students who did that with us had only 2.5 years with us at the school. So we said, if they can get 83, then let's put the bar higher up at 85%. And I know that over the years I've been there, it was 2 stream. You know, when I left, there was only 1 year that we went below that, 85%. We've even got as far as 100%. But then maybe being preoccupied with forming a 3rd stream, you know how it is, you know, new teachers, something went wrong, and it came down, I think, at one point to about below 70%. That was the alarm bell, actually. And we started a planning process. And it was based on these 3 things. Curriculum delivery, school environment, and parental environment. Curriculum delivery, that is not difficult to assess because you tend to take exam results, whether in-house, move on, whether exam results, IGCSE or in-house, but we went one step further after that. And we said in each area we should set goals, establish priorities. Always have to do that because you can't do everything at the same time. You stretch your resources, be it human, be it financial. Establish performance targets, implementation strategies, time frames. All our school improvement plan follow this pattern. Time frames is very important. And then annual reviews, because quite often an improvement plan is not something that you can do in one year. There's a cycle, at least 3 years. But every year you review to see, are you going still at the same, going down or going up? And you review your strategies as you go along. And we first started with a SWOT analysis. That was in 2018. But the problem with SWOT analysis, which I find, is that it can be too descriptive. It doesn't help you establish what is worse, what is better. You just get used to say, this is your strength, this is your weakness, these are your challenges. But it doesn't put a figure to it. Not, unless, of course, there are the ones who carried hours did not follow the normal thing, because it's not quantified in any way. Obviously, in that analysis, there were a lot of things which were useful, and then when we did the next one, which was the CIA survey in 2019, we found that some of the things that were being said in the SWOT analysis was actually correct, but it reinforced, and then we felt we were working on good grounds here. And that CIE survey relies on, and in fact this is CIE's Cambridge, but it's an organization within Cambridge called UNISEY that organizes that. Series of questionnaire, and as you see here, there were 5 domains, and each domain had certain standards. I'm not giving everything there because I'll just say 4 standards for mission and values, 4 for management, and 7 for management and leadership. 8 there, the highest is quality of teaching and learning, 4 for resources for learning, and 4 for community engagement. You can translate that into parental engagement, in the case of independent school in a sense. And this shows you the respondents. Now, students and teachers, they all had to do it, because we had them in the school there, and so we have computer labs that can take a whole class in the primary and a whole class in the secondary. And so we arranged for groups to come in and do, because it was an online survey by Cambridge. Teachers, as I say, all of them, and there are 8 considered senior leaders in the school. But the problem with parents, we could not say to groups, you come in on Monday, you come in on Tuesday, whatever it is. So we tried to take the alternative and said, we'll give you the link, you get in touch with Cambridge yourself directly, and we asked Cambridge to send us things on what was happening with parents. And as a matter of fact, we had to ask them to extend the time they were giving parents to take part in the survey. But nevertheless, we only got about 202 parents, which is about 30% of our parent population. But still sizable, okay, for us to continue. And the findings, that's the next one. There. Overall, the highest one was D1, which was mission and values, whereas the lowest was D4, which was resources. And within resources, there's also a bit of, let's see, how students feel. Is it conducive to learning certain things that they are getting? So that includes in there. One would have to go to the original standards. But resources was easy for us in the administration, because that is more finance, you see. We just have to get the will and say, we need to put money there. And actually, this was a whole school thing. Except for students, we only took secondary students to complete the survey. Obviously, the way it was, in English and online, and we weren't including kindergarten and lower primary. I think P5 and P6 took part as well. So there we are. So that gave us an idea where our priorities for attention lie. And something that came up was, in fact, this thing of how the truth, coming from students especially, how they felt at school, and the usual concerns, and in fact, that has always been there, but we still need to have it because we're nuisance all the time. We need to have a way of addressing that. Things like bullying, not being comfortable, things like that. So that one of the first things we did was look at that and reviewed our what we call the safeguarding policy, and then monitor. Apparently, I've been told that more recently, the amount of reported or bullying at the school could have gone down to, I think, about 2. There may be more, but then you don't always know with students. But it is important because you have to have an environment which is conducive for learning. And that can be a big problem. Now, normally if you're looking at S5 results and you take your secondary teachers because in the same school, it's different. I don't know what you do if you are separate primary and secondary and your feeder schools, from different primary schools, what you do in that. Here, at the school, we had this thing of being all in one, under one roof in a way. And so we said, let's measure at P6 now. That's why in 2019, we introduced, because even up to, well before, the school was doing what is called the Cambridge Primary Program. So we said, why not do that checkpoint at P6 and see how it's going. And there are the reasons why we did that. Not to give kids a grade and to take home. Not like, in fact, when I introduced that, some parents came to me and said, Mr. Pragassen, you're not doing like we used to at Seychelles College. If you don't pass the P6, you don't go to secondary. I think Dr. Fayon remembers those days as well as others who of that generation. So that we had to explain what is there, that it is basically to help them get on, to find out where they're weak at that level so that we can give them additional help. Because this is a very detailed thing, actually. It tells you every question, what a child has done, how a child has done, and every single question. And so that's why we had to take measures. When the first group went to S1, we had to, for maths, we had to set them, have additional teachers to bring up their maths. And as you can see in that graph, that's the result. And you can see there that the yellow maths is among the lowest, with an average of just above 3. By the way, that is worldwide. When we compare that, because Cambridge also sends us how other countries are doing this test. And for that, for maths, just around the international, so which means that maths is a problem worldwide, actually. Then we start to learn from that first one, and as you can see, it improved a little bit. Not by much. And I don't know whether it's the effect of COVID, as you can see. It went down a little bit. It went down slightly. I'm talking about these columns. Okay? From that to that, it went down, but still above the October 2019. Whether the COVID had an effect on that, because although it shouldn't have been, because the worst part was before 2020, but still it could have, I don't know, but it's slight. Whereas you can see the trend within, it's about the same with English, you know, just bouncing there, up there, and there. But we are very pleased with the science, as you can see. It keeps going, growing. And that's a score on 6, by the way. And that compared to the other countries, or other places doing it, we came way above the international. So that gave us a lot of pressure. So learned a few things from there. I said, why is it this can happen in science, but not in English and maths? Why are the science people learning from previous mistakes and working on that? Questions to us. That's why it's good to do a study over time, not just happy with one. And then this is explained, so I'll skip that. If it's 5, you have excellent, more than 5 excellent, and whatever good. And then you have to start worrying about score less than 3. And then you take individual students to examine why they're less than 3 and try and help them. So from there, since I don't have time, I'll just go quickly. I've been warned here. I was, it's a bit like games you see sometimes. Now you have only 5 minutes left. The cooking competitions. And then they will go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm hating that it would come to 0. So we say we look at literacy, and there it is. Then we look at numeracy. And that's what we were doing. And so there we are. And this is a work that at the school itself being done. It's not from outside. Our own teachers are doing it. They get together. They learn from each other. And these are the new initiative for the school. If I can, there we are. From the lessons we've learned, we've established new initiatives that we will also now do checkpoint at S3 level before the IGCSE years. And then progression tests at the level of P3, just after S2, after P2, where there's no formal assessment. We don't want to do that. So we're doing it at the level of P3 to see where is the problem that, especially in maths, not so much in English, that is causing this standard problem. Of course, which we've started, investment in digital technologies. In fact, we're well on the way for that. Another thing that we really put a lot of importance to is continuous professional development for our staff. And there we give them access to, because now after COVID, there's a lot of where you can get on that third one, CPD and improving teaching, because these days, since COVID, a lot of webinars, which is online, a lot of them are free on top of that. But we've also, the school has also joined one organization, which is TESS. I don't know whether we know that, but there we are. So we attach a lot of importance to that. Yes, we have this new management information system, so removes a bit of the time teachers do management. So soon, I think this is being done now. A teacher will enter the class and there's a computer there and they'll take attendance. That's a simple thing as that. They don't have to write anything down. And that goes directly to the central, is where the analysis is done. So these are all the, and that comes from, not because we thought about it. It came from gathering evidence. That is critical. We cannot rely on hearsay, on what somebody says in the assembly, in the field of teaching and education. The sort of thing that you would say, a lot of people out there saying this, and then you act on it. They're going to make you dig the wrong hole. And of course, before I'm shut off, I will do the acknowledgement. ICD, I got a lot of help from Mrs. Shirley Shopi, despite the fact that the week that I asked her, she was busy in the assembly. She found time to answer my, let me have the information I asked for. In the Ministry of Education, I have mostly Kevil Telemark and Anna Teresin, I think in the statistics section. At the school, I have a whole host of people there, from the principal himself, and because all of these people were involved, a lot of the other people were involved in the work that we've been doing, which I've explained here. It wasn't just a question of the top down, it was people from the bottom helping. And we try as much as possible for them to take ownership of their areas. And I think they seem to be very proud of it. So we have Mr. Sparrow, principal, Mr. Jean Inoir, the vice principal, who is in charge of primary, because a lot of our officers, as you can see, were at the primary level. Mrs. Bell, who coordinated the literacy one, and Mrs. Lindy Waits, library and science teacher, who did the maths one, pointing the maths one, with a team of people, obviously. So I thank them all for helping me with this presentation, with what they had gathered. Of course, I've got also to help my family, who had to put up with me the last week, not prepared to do any of the home chores. So they had to do the washing up and preparing in that week for me. Thank you. And my wife and my daughter, who also helped me, some of the techniques in this presentation. My last thing was supposed to be conclusion, but my time has run out. Unless we are ostriches, we have to recognize we have a serious problem with the quality of education. So what we need to do is get our head out of the sand, don't stay in denial, and accept that we are failing. Failing a lot of young people. So the first thing to do is accept that we are failing. Find out after that where we are failing. Failure is not something bad, as long as you learn from it. We all fail. Maybe we fail once, we fail twice. But if we deny, we'll never fail and we'll never do anything. And of course, definitely we need changes to tackle these failures. In the Ministry of Education, I've taken part, it's always been, I don't know whether it is still now, a question of top-down. At the top, we say, you must do that. I remember the first reform, the Creole reform, I had just come back from UK, and I attended one of these conferences. It was at Maison du Peuple or whatever it is, where brought all the people together, politicians, educationists, and so on, and says, we need to change the medium of instruction from English to Creole. So we listened to the arguments and said, yes, we agree with you, but can you give us time to do that? And the answer from the politician was, no, you only have 6 months. Why? Entre-temps, cabri pour man salade. So we don't give you more than 6 months. Because cabri pour man salade if we give you more than 6 months. And then the moment some of the politician says that to you, you say, okay, you back down. And I've been involved in almost all of them, I must say. The structural reform. In fact, as Mrs. Spell said, I was in charge of the organization within the ministry that was responsible for that. So I tried to do my best given the circumstances. It was a big challenge. I enjoyed it. So I would say, I would recommend that we involve our school more. Let our schools tell us what they want to do, how they want to bring about changes. Empower them, give them support, give them the training, especially the leadership. And give them the resources. If you keep doing the other way around, you get a lot of your leaders discouraged, demotivated. Because quite often they say, these people over there don't know what is going on in the school. So they're telling us to do this, do that, do that, do that. And I leave that last one to when I see the Minister of Finance, together with the Minister of Education, have a chance to, is something that people are crying out there for. Maybe I'm biased on that one. Support the private sector. Encourage more passion by private sector. It cannot be that after whatever it is since 1992, mind you, it was difficult. We didn't get support at all to have an independent Seychelles school, which is still going. But why is it over all these years with the demand for private education there hasn't been more? I know why. We'll keep it at that. And because it could be a win-win for all. It could mean that the tax money, there would be less tax money required for state education. Going to state, used by state education, because some of the money will be parents' direct money. And there, if it's a question of resources, I think the government, maybe through the Minister of Education, should find ways of getting parents to contribute a bit more. We've been burdened with this thing on our neck saying it's free education for everything. Now, including meals and whatever, you name it, it's got to be free, as if it happens in the school. I hope I'm not too controversial on that one. Anyway, I will conclude. Yes, I will conclude. It leads me to wish the university a happy 13th birthday, and that you continue with all your efforts you're doing to get the university on the right track and grow and improve. And I thank you all for bearing with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pragassen. And please remain here at the front for accept the gift from the Vice-Chancellor. Vice-Chancellor, may I ask you to come forward for the donation to Mr. Pragassen. Thank you, Vice-Chancellor. Thank you, Mr. Pragassen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of today's event. On behalf of UNISEY, I would like to extend our gratitude to all who have made this event possible. The speaker, Mr. Zotique Pragassen, Mad Creations, Toolbox, Classic Designs, UNISEY Council, staff and students. We appreciate your continuous support. Last but not least, we would like to thank the Minister of Education for taking this time out in his busy schedule to be with us today. To you all present, thank you for coming. And to those following us virtually, thank you. Have a pleasant day or evening wherever you are. And we would now like to invite you for some refreshments right outside the auditorium. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.